Hello guys, it's Chumma32 here. We're doing another Beyblade discussion, this time on sort of my first impressions on Beyblade X. I've had them for a few days now, and I didn't really have any time to, well, not time, but I just couldn't record the past few days and, or really do much else, so I spent a lot of time just kind of messing with these things a little bit, and just wanted to talk about kind of my first overall impressions and thoughts on Beyblade X. So first, I just want to get this out of the way. Kind of battle stuff, and the reason I'm doing this first is I also just want to mention that in case anyone's new to my channel, maybe they saw me from the Beyblade X unboxings I just did a few days ago, which, yeah, thanks for the views on those, like, those have done really well. But one thing about me is that I don't battle. I don't do Beyblade battles on my own time or on YouTube, it's just not really my thing. So, yeah, for battle stuff, this is not really me talking about the battles themselves as much, than just my own personal thoughts on them. It's mostly just something I'm a little worried about with Beyblade battles in this generation, and that is kind of the interest of them. A big thing with Beyblade X is the stadium and the extreme dash gimmick. Basically, of course, these bays have kind of the gear-like pieces on their bottom here, on the bits, which is, of course, meant to go into the stadium, which, by the way, I don't have a stadium that I'll go in for collection's sake, but I don't have that yet. But anyway, they're meant to connect to the stadium and go very fast, which on paper is very cool, and I think it does look very cool, but this definitely changes the way Beyblade is played. Obviously, attack types, they don't just go around the ridge anymore. Now when they're going around the ridge, they connect to this and fly inward. And I guess Beyblade in general, when they move around more, again, they kind of hit this ridge and can speed up. It's much, much different than the Beyblade battles we were used to. And I feel like because of that, it definitely changes up a lot. Like, attack types are going to be a bit more, I don't want to say linear, but, there's not as much to them in that sense of, like, what is this bay gonna do, Because obviously with attack types, you have a lot of different, like in bursts, a lot of different drivers. Like, there were things like, I guess it became less relevant, like, in later seasons, but, like, earlier on, something like Excel was a bit slower, but had more stamina, or something like Extreme had less stamina, but was a lot faster. There were kind of different things like this, and also, like, there's different elements of how well can you control attack types, how hard do you want to launch. But with this, and also, like, just kind of the angle you launch at. But with this, it's more just you kind of launch at a flat angle, and then they just fly around the stadium. And again, there's definitely gonna be things found out. This isn't it. It's not as basic as it might just seem from that. There will definitely be more things to what this will have, but it's definitely not as dynamic in a sense. Because Beys, if you're using an attack type, they're going to just fly around the stadium. But when you're not using an attack type, a lot of the times, I mean, yeah, it's still a connect to the extreme dash, but a lot of times it might just end up being kind of similar to what we had before. So it kind of just ends up in this weird spot of, is this gimmick really going to end up being something people care about? Like, look at bursting. I feel like bursting was something people were really interested in with, Beyblade Burst earlier on, but over time, it was not as cool, It wasn't as crazy. It was kind of a mechanic of the game, and I don't think everyone just despised it or anything like that, but it wasn't as interesting. Maybe some people didn't like it as much. But with this heavily alters the entire game. Again, unless if you're using, kind of just boring, stamina battles and stuff, like stamina types, defense types, whatever. But, when using attack types and stuff, it's completely different. With bursts, those weren't going to happen every battle, especially as time went on. But with this is going to be something that is going to, again, it completely changed battles, and will continue to have them be different unless something changes. Now, this is a bit concerning to me just because I wonder if, like, people, I mean, will they get bored of it? That's what I'm trying to get at here. Will people get bored of this mechanic? Which I think there's a decent chance of happening. Will these battles just become stale? Yeah, they look flashy at first, but over time, are they going to, have the same amount of interest? I definitely think Takatomi probably has something like this in mind and might want to expand on the bits, or maybe even make new stadiums, we'll see, but just do more to make sure these bays are doing more than just flying around the stadium. If they make sure to, maybe even just different, shapes for these gear-like parts on the bit, they could definitely pull something off that makes these battles seem refreshing over time. But if they just stay stagnant, then I could see this actually being a little bit bland over time. It's something I am just a bit worried about with sort of the longevity of Beyblade X. And again, we'll see if this even becomes a problem. I could just be like fear-mongering, but I still want to mention this just as a potential problem with this gen. Now let's get into the actual bays themselves. These actual bays, I think, without talking about anything like the potential of them in the future or durability, we'll get into this. We'll get into those in like a minute here. But I think just the overall bays are really, really nice. I really do like sort of the idea of these bays. I think overall everything works very well here. Of course, you have the blade, the contact points, all the metal. It looks very cool. I like the kind of design, like the center part, like the bit beast almost. Just a very cool. The ratchet, of course, has the different points and heights and stuff. Kind of affects, bursting, and then of course the bit also can add on some burst resistance as well. But largely it's just how the bay performs, and again has the gear light part, which maybe they'll do more with in the future to change up battles. But anyway, I like these bays a lot, and also just putting them together is very modular. You just kind of line up the white part with the blade, and then you just kind of twist very easy, and the bit you just kind of push in, and that's all there is to it. I do find these bays to just be like extremely easy to deal with overall, especially compared to like bursts and stuff. Like again, with some of the teeth we are seeing, like late in burst, also with just like dash drivers, some of these bays are getting harder to put together. Also, like teeth wear was an issue, but that's a different topic. But these just feel much better, and they also definitely take inspiration from other gens. I feel like it definitely takes some inspiration from Burst's overall design. Kind of a mix of Burst and box and shoot, I feel like. Plus keeping the burst mechanic, and then, of course, the metal contact points from Metal Fight, so... Yeah, I definitely like these bays overall. I think they do work very well. I think that the base design of these bays is very good, and I don't really have much to complain about at this time. But then there's the two other things that are related to the bays that are a bit more contentious. So first up, the durability of these things. I'm just going to say right now, I generally think durability problems are overblown in Beyblade. Generally. Like if you see a break, I feel like a lot of the time that's not really going to happen much. There are certain things, like let me get a burst bay here that was a bit more infamous, which was Victory Valkyrie. Victory Valkyrie had problems with the initial mold. So this is a Mold 1 Victory Valkyrie, which I believe it was only the starter release, and I think maybe the entry set that were like this. I think maybe there's like a limited edition that I'm forgetting, but later releases, like once you was like Random Booster Volume 3 a few months later, they were updated. The molds were different and reinforced. So basically this thing had, you could see under the wings here, they were completely open, and in later releases for the starter and maybe the entry set, they did update these, but this is a original mold Victory Valkyrie that I got around release, and you'd see under the wings, it is completely hollowed out, but when I grab this one from Random Booster Volume 3, you can see like there's these lines here to help reinforce it, which, how much this actually helped is debatable, but like, they did go back to try and fix something like this, but yeah, like there were some examples that definitely had pretty big design flaws. Like this was definitely not a good idea right here, to have like these big contact points with just nothing supporting them. Yeah, there's definitely cases like this, but are Beyblade X bays, are they this bad? I don't think that they are. I don't think that they are perfect for sure, but I don't think that they're like that bad. They definitely have like a level of reinforcement, I would say. And I mean, there's also just like metal. Like metal isn't going to break as easily, but of course that can happen. Um, I think a big problem people have pointed out is the actual materials that they've used. I believe the metal, it's Zamak metal. I hope that's the right way to say it. I hope it's not like meant to be purely pronounced as a proper acronym. I might sound like a clown when I say that, but yeah, Zamak metal and then palm plastic for the bit. I believe there was something with that. But the main thing is, I guess, just like the metal being Zamak metal. It's like a zinc alloy, I believe. And basically, people are just saying that these aren't durable enough. And you definitely see that there's definitely marks on the bays. The metal can get like dented and damaged, and there's even been some big breaks. Is this a huge problem with Beyblade X? I personally don't think it's like a massive issue, but I do hope that they address this and over time fix it, maybe reinforce some stuff. Because like if I take this apart, for example, again, and you could just see kind of this open spot, for example, maybe they could reinforce this a little bit. Maybe just kind of generally reinforce the metal a bit. That could be helpful, but again, we'll see if they opt to do anything about that. I hope they do, because it would be unfortunate to just let these bays, kind of have these issues. Because again, I do think that the breakage issues that people are saying, like, it's a massive issue with Beyblade X, kind of overblown. But yeah, it is still something. Like Burst also had breakage problems, especially in later seasons, just because like the bays were so heavy, and how fast some of them went. They would just break over time, or like have more damage compared to like earlier bays. And I feel like that's kind of a similar problem here, is where the materials aren't necessarily even that bad. It's more just that with like attack types in particular, these bays go so fast and hit with so much force that yeah, breakage issues are going to happen more, often. But I hope that they do reinforce it to make that less likely. It's still gonna happen. You can't prevent breakage entirely, no matter what. But yeah, I do hope that they maybe update things at least to an extent. Next up, gimmicks. So gimmicks, I think, are a bit divisive. I know some people who like gimmicks a lot. Me personally, I like gimmicks. I like when there's a lot going on with bays. Other people hate them, or maybe not hate them, but they would rather not have gimmicks. They prefer, more basic bays. And I guess it's an issue that really depends on what you like, because I feel like in terms of gimmicks, they've kind of shot themselves in the foot with these designs. I do like the way that they're designed, but with the blades, I mean, like, I could maybe see some gimmicks, but again, with metal, it's harder to really do proper gimmicks. And then ratchets, like, you kind of need these points, so I don't know where they'd fit them in. Then bits, you need the gears, so there's not a lot of room underneath that. I don't really know where they're going to house gimmicks on these things. Again, they might figure something out, but I personally just can't see them doing it, I guess. So if you're a fan of more basic bays, you might be happy with this. But if you prefer gimmicks, then I don't know how they're going to pull it off. I'm sure they'll do something, but like, yeah, this is something that, again, it's a bit more divisive and is just a personal thing. But yeah, I could definitely see gimmicks being a bit lackluster this gen, which, depending on the person, is a good or bad thing. But yeah, it's definitely a topic to bring up, though. That one just really just depends on the person. But yeah. Okay, next up, prices. Yeah. So prices for Beyblade X, I'm just gonna say it. I kind of think they're a bit overpriced, and I'm a little bit worried about that. I'm just gonna start putting these things back while I talk. But I'm a little bit worried about the prices of Beyblade X, personally. I think that they might be a little too high. But here's the thing, though, is, like, yen has really fallen off recently. Like, it's gone down in value a ton. Like, it used to be more comparable to, like, compared to USD, it was, like, a dollar, maybe down to, like, 90 cents or so. But, that's fine enough. But recently, it's been more around, like, that 70-cent range. I don't think it's breached 80 cents in the past year. So yeah, the yen's much, much lower than it used to be in terms of, like, conversion to USD. So, like, you can argue that that's, just inflation out there, but at the same time, it definitely doesn't help the Japanese market, and, For us, it's fine, I guess. It's not really as different if you kind of compare yen rates to a few years ago and what those prices were to what they are now, with current conversion rates and stuff. But here's the thing: if the yen recovers and they don't change the prices, these things are going to be very pricey, which is not good. So right now, starters are about 1980 yen, about 14 bucks, which isn't bad. But again, if they go up closer to that dollar range again, that's gonna be almost $20 per starter, which, yeah, you can see how that jump would go. And with how people like to sell bays, like a lot of resellers, like a lot of stores, they tend to mark up their bays a lot. People are selling these starters already for like almost $30. Some people were even trying to charge over $30. I saw someone like charging like a lot of money for these things, and it's just like, man, that's not good. So imagine if these go up to $20 and like they just leave the yen rates the same, or not, yeah, the yen rates and stuff, like they leave the prices the same, but the yen rates go up, and they're $20 per starter instead of like 14 bucks per starter. I could see this being a bit of an issue, and that's kind of something I wanted to get into. I don't think that the prices are necessarily unfair given the circumstances right now. But yeah, I just think, I mean, maybe they're a little bit steep, but I guess we are starting off from I guess a higher quality, not well, kind of higher quality point. I mean, they are using more metal and stuff, but and these bays are pretty detailed overall. But yeah, I just think if the yen recovers and they don't adjust the prices for that, this is gonna get ugly real fast for everyone. Well, internationally at least. So that's a worry of mine. Also, these prices are definitely higher than other gens, like the starting prices, even with like the difference in conversion rates and inflation. So assuming that these bays don't go too crazy, it's not like a burst situation. Maybe like more of a metal fight thing where maybe it goes from like pre-heavy build like 40. It advanced and stuff, but it wasn't like crazy. Like burst going from single layers to DB. That was a massive difference. Assuming it's more metal fight like, I think the prices are okay. But if we have a burst situation where these bays are becoming giant and are like almost doubling the original prices, these are going to be a huge problem. Maybe not doubling the prices, but like maybe having like an 800 yen increase, kind of like bursted, relatively. Like, yeah, like I'm not going like perfectly here, but like just for the sake of the argument, like an 800 yen increase, which I think is actually less than burst. Yeah, I think it was, but if we go from almost 2,000 yen to like 2,800 yen per starter, that'd be really bad. So again, if inflation rates are like the same, like the conversion rates are the same, and they don't go too crazy, we'll be fine. Or even if the yen recovers and they adjust the prices for that, they'll be fine. But if it does recover and they don't adjust the prices, that's a problem. And if the bays get too complicated and go up in price a lot, that's also a problem. So I am a little bit worried about the prices, but for now, they're okay. And that's kind of everything I really wanted to just talk about with the bays and kind of my current thoughts on them. But there's one extra thing I wanted to just mention really quick. Was this meant to be a second try at 0G? Like, I just have to mention this. Like, we've had gimmicky stadiums before and, like, bays that kind of were meant to be used with them, but, like, I don't think anything really hit the same as 0G with its stadium. Like, the bays, you could use them outside of the stadium, or you could use other bays in the stadium, but, like, these bays were specifically designed with kind of the parts and the height and stuff to be used in this 0G stadium. Beyblade X bays are the same. Yes, you could launch bays in the Beyblade X stadium, but they're not going to get the same effect with the Extreme Dash. And then, obviously these bays here, you can use them in other stadiums, but they're not going to do the same. Again, Extreme Dash isn't really a factor in them. So you're really meant to use these bays in the new stadium. And also, like, just look at a 0G bay. Like, can we just say that they're kind of similar looking? Like, at least sort of. Like, come on, like they're kind of similar. Like, not like perfect, but it's like probably the closest comparison. just something about kind of the Bay designs and also just the stadium, kind of like the battling idea. I wonder if they wanted to have a new kind of Beyblade, tied to a stadium gimmick or something, and kind of give the whole zero G idea a different, well, obviously a different approach, like another try, with kind of how the bays and stadiums are interconnected. Is that just me? Maybe. But yeah, I feel like it definitely did better than Zero G because like the battles are much more exciting and interesting. It's because like the Zero G Stadium wasn't the best in my opinion. But also, it's a whole new gen, and being a new gen, they can actually change up a lot. With Zero G, was kind of in a weird spot where they were like, oh, let's call this part of Metal Fight, but it's a lot different, but also not different enough to be its own thing. It wasn't great. It was a kind of a really bad middle ground that was just not very good. And yeah, Zero G failed for a reason, and I don't think this is like that, obviously. I just feel like the kind of overarching idea felt sort of like Zero G, and I wanted to just bring up the idea. If maybe they looked at Zero G and were like, maybe we could do something similar, like in concept to this, just not the same as Zero G again, obviously, but like just sort of the base idea. Maybe they wanted to give something like that a second try, which is kind of interesting if they did, and I think that they succeeded if they did. But yeah. Anyway, that's just all my kind of first impressions for Beyblade X. I had some bullet points here, but I didn't really have like a detailed list of things to talk about. I just really wanted to just go off the top of my head, just talk about things with Beyblade X, just give my kind of general thoughts. I covered everything I wanted to, so yeah, I might make follow-up discussions eventually about certain topics. Maybe if like durability becomes a bigger issue or something, we'll talk more about that. For example, I don't know if that'll happen, but we'll see. But yeah, for now, just as kind of a first impressions video, I think that's everything I want to say. So yeah, more Beyblade X videos coming soon. So, that said, thanks for watching, and bye-bye.